What kind of position does this put Putin in? Does he risk looking weak if he doesn't do more to prop up the regime of Bashar al-Assad, whom he continues to support?
Well, of course, Russia's in a very difficult position now because it had managed to support Assad very successfully. He was on the point of losing the war, and in late 2015, Russian forces went in, started a bombing campaign, and now there's a political process which is underway. Russia had been hoping to legitimize Assad's continued rule, and these strikes, of course, changed that whole calculus. And now Russia is waiting to see exactly how much the US is prepared to do in Syria.
How much the US is prepared to do, and also how much Moscow is prepared to do, because Leonid Brzezinski made the point in Bloomberg View today that, Syria isn't likely to launch attacks against US aircraft or anti-missile defense in any way, but Russia certainly could.
No, I mean, Russia is not going to engage in direct military confrontation with the US. There's a complete mismatch in capabilities. Even the number of cruise missiles launched today by the US is equivalent to the total number of cruise missiles fired by Russia over the course of the entire Syria campaign. However, Russia suspended an agreement to prevent any kind of hostile incidents. It allows for hotlines between the two militaries. It suspended that agreement, and then the idea is to make it more difficult for the US to intervene in the future. The idea that they wouldn't want to risk some kind of military conflict with Russia.
Henry, am I right in thinking that it's not quite clear yet, where we are in terms of this alleged chemical attack? If it turns out that they were people within Bashar al-Assad's regime, this further complicates things for Moscow, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, you have to remember that often you never end up with 100% proof of involvement. I mean, there was a chemical attack in 2013 outside of Damascus, killed more than 1,000 people. And, Russia to this day doesn't accept that the Assad's forces were behind it. So unless there's conclusive evidence that the Syrians were involved, I think Russia will continue to support him.
And what about the decisions that have been made since on the airspace? What are the implications of that?
Well, they're quite serious, as I indicated. This is an agreement which was made during Obama's presidency. It was really the only agreement that they managed to reach on Syria, other than one to dismantle the chemical weapons of Assad. And this has allowed, apart from one major incident in which US aircraft mistakenly bombed the Syrian airbase, it has enabled the two sides to avoid any kind of conflict over what is a very crowded airspace.
This crowded airspace, is crucial when it comes to any anti-ISIS campaigns. Henry, does this make it more difficult for any collaboration between the US and Russia on ISIS campaigns? And obviously, Rex Tillerson, the Secretary of State, will be in Russia next week. At least that still hasn't been cancelled.
The trip is going ahead as far as we know. Cooperation on fighting ISIS was one of Trump's campaign pledges, and Russia very much welcomed that at the time. But even before these strikes, Russia was becoming increasingly skeptical that this agreement would ever see the light of day. US military commanders have openly voiced skepticism about it. I think in reality that's not going to happen, and people in Moscow understand that.